columnist and senior analyst Mr. Kashif Mirza wrote in his latest column, BRICS Plus a new rival for the G7, can Pakistan be a member? That being a BRICS member would be very fortunate for Pakistan. BRICS economies are all quite stable. Until Pakistan improves its economic conditions, BRICS membership may be difficult. There are opportunities attached to BRICS expansion as its members can tap a huge market. As Pakistan has easy access to China, India and Russia by road and by sea. The BRICS has agreed to admit 6 new members, Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia and the UAE, and to consider other prospective countries. Strongly supported by China and Russia, the inclusion of Iran has strengthened the anti-US bloc in the BRICS, probably making it more antagonistic and more challenging for the United States and the West to deal with it as an organization which contains 2 internationally sanctioned members. The BRICS also agreed at the summit to accelerate the use of their local currencies to settle trade and investment transactions among themselves, continuing to reduce their reliance on the US dollar-based global payment and financial system. Mr. Kashif Mirza further added a formidable rival to the group of 7, G7, democratic powers could reshape geoeconomics and geopolitics across a range of issues, from Russia's war in Ukraine to the status of the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. The high-level attendance, from Xi to Modi, reveals a lot of the bloc's big ambitions to build an alternative multilateralism, starting with challenging the dollar and strengthening the new development bank without conditionality. While analyzing, Mr. Kashif Mirza said that US is monitoring the situation closely. The Biden administration announced its willingness to strengthen the financing capacities of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank on the occasion of the next G20 summit in India on September. Saudi Arabia and the UAE would add important economic heft to the group, which now includes several important Organization of Petroleum exporting countries members as well as Russia, giving it a relevancy in the geopolitics of the global oil market. Saudi Arabia and Argentina, both members of the Group of 20, G20, could enable the BRICS to help coordinate the views of most of the emerging market G20 members. In this sense, the group could serve as an informal counterpart to the G7, which coordinates developed countries' positions in advance of G20 meetings. However, with a strong China-Russia-Iran bloc, making compromises in the G20 more difficult to reach. The fact that Saudi Arabia, Iran, and the UAE will be members would have been unthinkable until recently and shows another facet of the diplomatic reconciliation among the 3 countries, with intermediation by China. Senior analyst Mr. Kashif Mirza further added that the decision by the BRICS nations to invite 4 Middle East countries to join their ranks, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Egypt, and Iran, highlights shifting geopolitical winds as much as it reflects an opportunity for closer economic integration with those states. The BRICS also agreed at the summit to accelerate the use of their local currencies to settle trade and investment transactions among themselves, continuing to reduce their reliance on the US dollar-based global payment and financial system. Mr. Kashif Mirza had an opinion that the decision to include Iran was almost certainly driven by Russia and China, as the country's massive gas and oil reserves were likely a selling point for Beijing in convincing Brasilia, Pretoria, and New Delhi to go along with the invitation, knowing it will further fuel tensions with Washington. Inclusion in the BRICS won't transform Iran's economy overnight. Iran views relations with China as providing an economic lifeline, given the poor state of the economy, which continues to reel from a bevy of US sanctions. But over time, groupings such as the BRICS have the potential to undermine Washington's power when it comes to punishing or isolating countries pursuing policies that contradict US interests, especially if they seek alternative systems and methods for trade and payment over which Washington lacks the same leverage that it has today over SWIFT. For US, it should be a warning. The emerging world might be multipolar, but some poles will be closer than others. Renowned columnist and senior analyst Mr. Kashif Mirza highlighted that the current 5-member BRICS group represents a quarter of the world's wealth and brings together 47% of the world's population and $27.7 trillion of the global economy, which is 36% of global GDP. More than 40 countries had expressed interest in joining BRICS, and 23 formally applied to join the club, which already represented a quarter of the global economy and 40% of the world's population. However, with the concentration of economic power in Western-led institutions since World War II, the Global South felt largely overlooked. Thus, BRICS Summit to raise the de facto voice of the Global South. But indeed the BRICS will also face new challenges. The group is very diverse, with unequal growth and rivaling interests. The BRICS has not coordinated for new development bank, which has not notably shifted the global governance landscape in the ways the group hoped, and to make progress on, such as reducing the use of local currencies in trade and expanding their correspondent banking ties. While discussing inter-African trade, Mr. Kashif Mirza pointed out that over the longer term, BRICS leaders have pledged to sort out inter-African trade. Trade among African countries makes up only 14.4% of African exports, and there's a push to get that to increase by facilitating trade between countries in their own respective currencies. BRICS can sort that out in a continent that uses more than 40 different currencies. It will be a major achievement. The G7, G20, and Asia-Pacific economic cooperation degenerating into boxing rings for tantrum diplomacy, where final communiques either get watered down or not issued at all. Perhaps it is worth giving BRICS a chance to reinvent multilateral cooperation. By concluding, Mr. Kashif Mirza suggested that the criteria for the BRICS expansion should be confirmed. As after joining BRICS, members' trade with other BRICS countries have increased significantly, especially with China, which it has grown exponentially. So in any case, being a BRICS member would be very fortunate for Pakistan. BRICS economies are all quite stable. Until Pakistan improves its economic conditions, BRICS membership may be difficult. There are opportunities attached to BRICS expansion as its members can tap a huge market. As Pakistan has easy access to China, India and Russia by road and by sea, it has advantages to join the group and build more connections with the members. The BRICS countries are often seen as a counterweight to the Western-led world. The growth of BRICS will further strengthen the force for world peace and development.